Hello and welcome to She Rises. This is a podcast for Christian women who love God but are tired of living in survival mode and want more than another promise of peace. Here we explore foundations, identity and biblical worldview, learning how to rebuild wisely so our lives and our homes are shaped by truth rather than reaction and steadiness rather than strain. I'm Joanne Hewlett and I'm so glad that you're here. Now, there is a confusion in our culture and increasingly in Christian circles that equates intensity with depth. If someone feels strongly, speaks passionately, reacts quickly, or expresses emotion vividly, we assume that they are authentic. If someone is calm, measured, or slow to respond, we sometimes assume they are disengaged or suppressing something. But intensity and maturity are not the same thing. In fact, they can be very far apart. Intensity is immediate, whereas maturity is formed. Intensity reacts and maturity responds. Intensity feels more powerful in the moment. Maturity holds under pressure over time. And unless we examine this carefully, we can build our lives around intensity while believing we're growing spiritually. Now, imagine a disagreement in your home. It may be something small, a decision about schedules, money, discipline, or extended family. You feel strongly about it. You articulate your view clearly, perhaps even passionately. You justify your tone because you care deeply. Afterwards, you might say to yourself, I was just being honest. And honesty matters, but honesty without steadiness can quickly become volatility. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the strength of your reaction is less about the issue itself and more about what it represents? A perceived lack of respect, a fear of losing control, a sense that you're not being heard. Intensity can mask insecurity. Maturity, by contrast, has the capacity to remain anchored even when disagreement arises. It doesn't need to escalate in order to feel strong. There is another layer to this, especially in Christian contexts. We can mistake fervour for faithfulness. If we care deeply about truth, morality, or family life, it can feel justified to speak forcefully or react quickly. We may even assume that calmness indicates compromise. But Jesus did not measure maturity by volume. He spoke with authority, yes, but he was not driven by emotional volatility. His steadiness under pressure before Pilate, before the crowds, before betrayal, reveals something profound about true strength. Maturity is not the absence of conviction. It is conviction anchored in obedience rather than emotion. And that anchoring is what keeps a life from being shaken. Intensity often runs on adrenaline. It feels energizing. It gives a sense of movement and control. But adrenaline is not a sustainable foundation. It produces spikes, not stability. A house built on unstable ground may stand impressively for a season, especially in calm weather, but when sustained pressure comes, cracks appear. Similarly, a life driven by emotional intensity can appear vibrant and committed, yet if it has not been shaped slowly by Christ's words, it may struggle when storms linger. Maturity, by contrast, is quieter. It's often less visible. It doesn't seek immediate validation. It's content to grow roots rather than impress observers. Hebrews speaks again of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. That's not adrenaline language, that's endurance language. Our culture amplifies intensity. Social media rewards strong reactions and decisive opinions. Algorithms favour urgency over reflection. Even within Christian spaces, boldness is sometimes conflated with spiritual authority. If we're not careful, we begin to believe that the louder or faster response is the stronger one. But Scripture forms something different. It calls us to self-control, gentleness, patience, qualities that rarely trend but always endure. The wise builder in Matthew 7 does not build a house that dazzles in sunlight. He builds one that remains standing in rain. That's maturity. If you recognize intensity in yourself, whether in sharp reactions, strong opinions, or emotional swings, the invitation is not to suppress feeling, it's to ask what your feeling is standing on. Is it anchored in trust? Is it aligned with obedience? Is it shaped by Christ's teaching or by cultural urgency? Maturity slows the moment down. It allows truth to settle before words are spoken. It tolerates discomfort without needing to win. That kind of steadiness does not develop accidentally. It's formed, and it can be formed in you. If you're beginning to see that some of what you've been calling strength may actually be intensity, this is where intentional formation becomes essential. Inside Rise and Restore, we don't simply talk about these distinctions, we work through them deliberately. We examine how emotion, belief, and obedience intersect, and we practice building responses that are anchored rather than reactive. If you're ready to move beyond intensity toward maturity, that space is open to you. You'll find the details in the show notes. So this week's gentle nudge, notice one moment where you feel strongly about something. Before you speak or act, pause long enough to ask, is this intensity or is this maturity? You may still choose to speak, you may still choose to act, but let the ground beneath your response be examined first. Next week, we will draw this series toward practical reinforcement, looking at a few deliberate ways to strengthen what holds so that steadiness becomes your default rather than your expectation. Until next time, live steadily, think deeply, and keep building wisely.